In this session, we're going to be talking about cross-site request forgery. Now, cross-site request forgery is a technique where you can get a user to perform a function on a web application without them actually being aware of it. So cross-site request forgery, which is sometimes known as get for post, is where you're actually sending data to the server where you're using a get request rather than a post request. Post requests are requests where you're sending data to the server, and get requests are where you want to get data back from the server. So you can see there's an example here of where this is potentially a cross-site request forgery, and this may be a get for post sort of thing. You can see there's a request here that's a get, and it's actually got some parameters, or what looks like parameters here, where the question mark C equals D, semicolon O equals A. So it looks like there's a couple of parameters there, and that's in a get request. Now, if you're sending parameters for some sort of query or some sort of CGI interaction with the web server, you really want to be using a post. The reason for that is a GET request can easily be stuffed inside of an image tag. So in this case, I could create a web page with an image tag in it that has a 0 size, and so the image that's really non-existent won't show up on the page, but what the image source is going to be is this particular request. And so if you have access to this web application and I can get you to go to the page that has my particular image tag in it, you're actually going to be generating the request from your browser to the server where this is located. You're not going to know it because the request is actually buried inside the HTML, and the image tag generates a GET request. Since this server appears to allow GET requests with parameters, there's a possibility I could get you to do something on this server without your knowledge. So that's cross-site request forgery, and it's all about putting together an attack where I can get you to go to a page without you actually being aware you're going to a page. And that's because I'm using something like an image tag to store the request in. When you go to this particular page, your browser is by default going to start pulling the images, including generating this programmatic request, which could be something like a balance transfer at a bank website. It could be a server shutdown. It could be any number of things that I may be able to do with this particular technique. So again, this is sometimes called a get for post vulnerability, where you're allowing a get message where you should be using a post. And in this case, when you're programming the site, you really want to make sure you're paying attention to the HTTP request and making sure that if there's data that's being sent up to the server, that it's a post and not a GET request. And that's because it's a lot harder to forge post requests without the user being aware that something is going on. GET requests are trivial to manufacture and get you to actually generate a GET request that you're completely unaware of. And here's an example, actually. So I was going to this 192.168.1.39, and you can see at the bottom of this window on the left-hand side, there are 4 sites that were referenced in the various pages on that site. I had no idea. I wasn't going to any of those. I wasn't going to ciphertext.com. But somehow there were requests issued to go to pages on those 4 different sites, and they all originated from pages on this one site that I've been working with. So there's definitely some danger in cross-site request forgery and allowing GET requests where you should be using POST requests instead. And that's cross-site request forgery.